We are talking to the author of Sorry Not Sorry today, Haji Mohamed Dawjee. Welcome to News 24. Tell us a little bit about this book and why you decided to write it.
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, the book is a collection of essays about experiences of a brown woman in a white South Africa, but I think it's more universal than that. I think it kind of looks into how brown women as a whole navigate our way through the world and the different experiences that we face that a lot of South Africans might not know about. So it was written in a way that I hope the reader can put themselves, in the shoes of someone like me and try and experience the world in that way themselves, and I guess start to ask themselves some hard questions. Yeah.
There's been several books like this. I feel like over the past year or so, some kind of almost like expressions of identity.
I got to a point myself, and I also think that the message of the book is that we need, as women of color, to start being unapologetic. I think we need to stop saying sorry, and we need to stop seeing ourselves as beggars and for work and jobs and places in schools and that kind of thing. And it's not a gift when a white person employs you. They're not doing you a favor. It is actually because you are skilled and you are worth it and you deserve the same pay as everyone else, for example. So I do think that the title is tied through, is threaded through the book in each essay, whether personal or more universal, in a sense that we're here. And whether you recognize us or not, we're going to stop explaining ourselves.
Yeah. And the fact that you kind of tell the story through your personal experiences in these different essays kind of drives that point home, that these are things that you've personally experienced.
Yes. And I mean, the things that I've personally experienced are not unique to me, nor are they the harshest of experiences, because everyone's experience is different. And I specifically made the subtitle Experiences of a Brown Woman as opposed to a black woman, because constitutionally it would be within my right to use that word. But, in an existential way, and my experience is not a black experience, it is a brown experience. And one of my pet peeves is that when brown people adopt a black identity and a black experience, when actually they're quite different. We're not allowed to do that. For me, is just a kind of appropriation. So there are things and stories in the book that are universal to all women of color and people of color in general. But then there are things that are brown people specific stories about brown communities and brown upbringings and that kind of thing, which I hope are stories that will be told more.
A lot of things you write in the book, as you also mentioned when you came in, will probably make a lot of people, specifically white people, a little bit uncomfortable. But why do you feel it's so important to have these conversations even at the expense of of white people's feelings?
Yeah.
Why is now the time for that conversation?
Yeah. I think if anyone needs to pay for these feelings, then it is white people. They need to spend of their emotions, because I think brown people have spent enough of theirs. And there is a tendency of, I know in my experience and a lot of other people, a lot of friends I have, where we keep quiet and we make ourselves small and invisible because we don't want to upset white people, because what are the repercussions of that? How are we going to be punished? Are we going to get less opportunities in the workplace because we've said something that's out of order, or we've overstepped a boundary, or we've not kept ourselves small enough? So when you say that these conversations need to take place at the expense of upsetting white people, then yes, and I don't think it's too much to ask, to be honest. Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously also a lot of the book centers on the issue of race, and there's a lot of conversation at the moment about race in South Africa, and I think I personally feel, and I think a lot of people think, it's high time that we have these conversations. Yes. We've had about 24 years now into democracy, and we've dealt with a lot of things, but this is kind of the central thing in our national discourse, that we haven't really dug into the wounds. So do you find that heartening that we are at least now at a point where we're having these conversations?
It's hard to say, and it's hard to call it heartening. And I also think it's complicated to say that we are having the conversations, because when you think about that, the first thing that comes to my mind is how white people with the best of intentions not only want to have the conversations, but they want to dictate them. they want to sort of direct the discourse, and they want to like headline the acts, and you know, that sort of thing. And in the book, there's a manifesto at the back that says, you know, it's actually your turn to listen and our turn to speak. And I think that is at its heart, that is the substance of the book.